Well, ladies and gents, Rings of Power showrunners are doing their best to continue hype for the Rings of Power, doing the rounds, doing various interviews, and various articles are being produced about it. And hilariously, you've got puff pieces all over the place, and then you've even got Lord of the Rings on Prime on Twitter, just blasting constant tweets out. It's time to binge. Watch all episodes now. No, it's definitely not time to binge. If and that was the 28th of October. And if you value your sanity, nah, mate, don't do it. Do not do it. But I thought we'd dive into this because this is just tragic and hilarious. And it reeks of, the South Park episode where everyone in San Francisco is just so smug that they're smelling their own farts. This is JD Payne and Patrick McKay. They think that they are so smart, and they're not, because everyone was saying it was Halbrand all along. They kept saying, no one's got it quite right. No, we all knew. It's crap. It's crap. All right, Halbrand being Sauron's crap. It's unimaginative. It's crap. So we dive into this today, ladies and gents, but before we do, please do check out the link in the description box to Missed H Reviews live archives. So it's a second channel. I'm live streaming again and covering a whole range of topics. We've even covered the Rings of Power. Topics which maybe aren't suitable for this type of format, but they're suitable for a roundtable conversational format. So they're clipped from the stream and they're individual shorter videos. So you can enjoy them whilst not having to watch a 2-hour stream, basically. Check that out. Please do subscribe. Turn the bell notifications on. Would love to have you over there as well. It's similar content to this, all similar topics, but different topics to what I cover here on the channel and with other people. So you'll like it. You'll like it a lot. But let's check this out. It's just such nonsense. It really is. So Vanity Fair. Who in the cast knew the truth about Sauron's identity? I'm guessing Charlie Vickers probably knew since he's playing him. But did you keep it a secret from the rest of the cast? It was very, very closely guarded. He didn't even know until maybe through episode 2 or early episode 3 what he was playing. We kept it that guarded. It's like, yep, but literally everyone else knew. What are you doing? And even Vanity Fair claps back by going, yeah, well, I had my suspicions all along. But there's a scene in the finale when Halbrand tells Galadriel, you believed in me when no one else did. It's right before she figures out that he's actually Sauron, but it clearly foreshadows that since she was alone in believing Sauron was still a threat, was there a lot of that threaded throughout the show? Ah, God, this pisses me off. Yes. In his very first shot, he's looking over his shoulder with one eye, and in episode 2 he says, the tides of fate are flowing, yours may be heading out. Now, we know that they've been stealing lines, but they literally steal it, and they even admit to it. That's the line Galadriel says to Frodo when the ring comes into her orbit. She's repeating the first thing he ever said to her. She asks on the raft, why would she do that? Why would she do that? Why? Why would she? Why? It doesn't even make any sense. She asks, it's just such grievous nonsense. And she asks on the raft to Halbrand, what kind of man would leave his companions to die? The kind of man that knows how to survive. Oh, it gets crazier than that. In his second line, he says, looks can be deceiving. Fucking hell. Even Vanity Fair's like, yes, he does. Like, okay. Then later in Numenor, somebody asks him, what's your name? And he says, that depends. And they say, it depends on what? He asks, how close we are. We tried to set it up where every single line would be true to a certain extent, no matter who he is. And literally everyone knew. These puff pieces are such trash. And these guys are on their way out anyway. We've heard that they're going to be quietly sidelined and Rings of Power, basically retooled because Amazon's pissed, massively pissed. And then you watch him beat the crap out of those guys in Numenor and break the guy's hand in a really disturbing way. You're like, oh my gosh, is he just a good fighter? Or is there something a little superhuman about what he just did? Then when Galadriel, Halbrand Sauron, have a heart-to-heart in episode 5. She bares her soul and says, I can't stop fighting, and my friends couldn't distinguish me from the evil I was fighting, and Sauron killed my brother. And he says, I'm sorry about your brother. He's the guy who effectively killed her brother. These are the show... They can barely speak properly. These are the showrunners that wrote this. You can tell. So is there a real pathos what's happening there, where he is genuinely apologising? Is he messing with her? Well, obviously not. Why would he be? He's not messing with her. She doesn't know who he is at that point, you dipshits. We designed every moment so you can be, is it a thing he's saying because it's true, or is he playing a role to manipulate her? I mean, Anatar was the great manipulator. In the 4th episode, she asks him for advice, and he says basically, the way you beat your enemies is to figure out what they need and figure out how to give it to them. Help them master their fear, and then you can master them. And that's exactly what he's doing to her the entire season. Maybe what he's going to do to everybody over the following seasons. That's his modus operandi. And then they talk about the creation of the 3 rings, which were the most cheap-looking garbage I've seen. And look at this still, look how cheap it is. Fucking hell, man, that looks like plastic as well. Goodness me. But anyway, they talk about the creation of the rings. They're making them out of mithril and using the most powerful forge ever built, but it keeps backfiring. How Bran Sauron proposes they stop trying to force elements together and instead let them mingle and draw together on their own. Is this a metaphor for what he's doing to the various societies and tribes in Middle-earth? It's a moment he's genuinely learning something as a character. Yeah, he learned something before the master forge smith of the elves. Yep, alright then. Alright. I don't think he was just keeping that in his back pocket and tossing it on as on the table now. He's been trying to conquer and force people forever. But being with the elves and watching them, they do things and watching what's effective, he sees another path and offers that up. Then that becomes the key that unlocks the entire thing. The entire thing that they then literally agree to do off their own accord. You know, you've got bloody Galadriel going, oh, I know exactly what he's trying to do, so we'll just do it anyway. Fuck off. And this is, again, egregious. Tolkien never explained the origin of mithril. But these guys, remember, they're better than Tolkien. Yep. So having the character say, this may be apocryphal, gave you permission to invent a little bit, right? Definitely, especially when you're playing with such primordial elements of canon, like the Silmarils, Mithril, the Balrog. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room, because people have obviously strong feelings canonically. Yeah, and you pissed all over that. Look at this trash. The gold and silver they use also has a meaningful origin. They use the dagger that belonged to Galadriel's brother. Not really. There's an emotional grounding we're looking for too. Galadriel's brother's dagger is the symbol of her in Season 1. The small piece of mithril they get is Elrond's journey in Season 1 and a symbol of his friendship that gets passed back and forth with Durin. So we're trying to invest with it as much magic as possible in an emotional way, in a way that feels like those rings come from something, and yet they literally made them look like crap. And then, ladies and gents, we've got the Nazgûls. That's right, the Nazgûls were here. Yep, the Nazgûls. But let's and then these are the actual ring wraiths. So the Nazgûls, the ring wraiths, and he's asked about that. They're asked about that. I wanted to ask you about the 3 witches who are hunting for Sauron as they dissipate. I don't think they are killed. We see them illuminated as skeletal figures, one with a crown, and they look very much like the ring wraiths to me. Am I reading that the right way? I think what you're reading is there are glimpses into the unseen world where the true form of something is revealed. You're seeing what is underneath the form that they've been presenting. Were they defeated or were they just temporarily vanquished? I think that's a story point that people can be thinking about. No, mate, you purposely made them look like ring wraiths. Alright, dickhead. It reminded me of Peter Jackson's films when Frodo puts on the one ring and sees the ring wraiths glowing in the same way. That's him seeing into the unseen world. The ring takes you into that place where you can see the true form of things. So then why do they look the same? What? No, you're not going to explain that? No? Because you're taking shit. We're riffing on the visual language of that. No, you're ripping it off. Riffing? No, you're literally ripping it off. Anyway, this is all garbage. Absolutely all garbage. They talk about the Gandalf line. To me, it felt like your way of saying, yes, this is Gandalf, without saying, hi, I'm Gandalf. He and Nori are going east. We know that the Blue Wizards go east. We know that Saruman has spent real time in the east. Certainly, he says some things and does some things that feel very Gandalfy. So the jury could still be out. It's probably Gandalf. Like, come on, stop thinking you're so smart. This is a journey of discovery, and the name has not been a part of that yet. But it feels by the end of the season 1 like he's a Tolkienian wizard, developing a Tolkienian relationship with a halfling that is akin to Gandalf and Frodo, or Gandalf and Bilbo. I think we'd be very delighted. Is that fair to say, JD? Absolutely, and the name, whatever it ends up being, will present itself at the time in which it feels like the wizard has earned it. Vanity Fair. Alright. Basically, you're talking nonsense. Anyway, hate this. Absolutely garbage. You know, they talk about the ratings. You know, are you seeing ratings? Are you looking at reactions online? What were you able to learn from the audience reaction that you found useful? There's a lot of ways to answer that question. I'd say you would probably have to ask Amazon what success looked like. Yeah, well, they're not happy with you. They're a very complex way that they measure how viewership impacts the platform and what their goals are and all those things. For us as storytellers, success means people engaging with the material in a way that impacts them. We receive notes from people to say, hey, I got together and watched this with my family. Blah, 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 blah. Suck a D. It just continues nonsense. Absolute nonsense. So there you go, ladies and gents. What a total pile of poo. More puff piece nonsense. We'll get these probably for another month and then it'll die off because they're going to shit the bed on season 2 and the showrunners probably cancelled and quietly backed away from the series.